Hello everybody, Shirley here, and welcome to the 11.0 pre-patch for The War Within. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to play your Arms Warrior in the pre-patch. This is going to be my version of a quick guide, so we're not going to get too deep into the details, as things will change once the expansion is fully out and we have access to our hero talents. But we're going to go over two quick builds today, one for single target raiding and the other one for Mythic Plus Dungeons AOE. And go over the rotations. So jumping right in off the ball here, we're not going to go over all the talents, just the ones that are relevant that have changed since the pre-patches came out and how they impact your rotation. So on the warrior side of the tree for our single target build, the main ones that jump out at me is the fact that we're no longer playing Warlord's Torments because this has been gutted basically, so we're losing a lot of rage generation and the recklessness procs, which also makes us pick up a couple of one other talent here. Uproar has been buffed, so it's reducing Thunderous Roar's cooldown by 45 seconds now, cutting it in half, so this is very significant, as well as Thunderous Words has been changed to where it's only buffing your bleed effects during the Thunderous Roar itself, which all of this will end up synergizing with the Bloodletting talents that is still the same, but, you know, it just values it more because that buff is only going to be during the Thunderous Roar. And that's pretty much it for rotational stuff on the warrior side. On the arms side of the tree, it's quite a bit different. We've dropped a few execute talents and some things have shuffled around, but the ones that stand out that are going to be impacting our rotation is Skull Splitter is making its return. They baked in the passive or the talent node below it, so it's now going to benefit Rend and Deep Wounds just baseline. And this is going to synergize incredibly well with our new rotation because the cooldown is practically half of what Thunderous Roar is now with Uproar. So every other Skull Splitter is going to be bleeding out those dots 100% faster during this window. So it's a lot of good burst damage, and you can line that up with Colossus Smash and everything. Speaking of which, we are playing something different in this row. We're going to In for the Kill once again, because Tests of Might, the way that they've normalized Rage, it's really hard to dump a ton of Rage to get full value out of that. And In for the Kill has been buffed to where it will last the same duration as Colossus Smash, so if you're playing this talent, you get 13 seconds of it rather than 10. And then the other major change to Arms' rotation is the fact that Ravager has made its return for single targets, at least at the moment anyway, and Unhinged has been buffed, so now it's going to cast 3, it says every other time, it was 2 before, but it's going to be 3 Mortal Strikes for free during that Ravager, and Ravager is generating Rage, so it's going to help feed our rotation with anger management and get everything nice and smooth, and then we still pick up a few Execute talents and Sudden Death as well. So yeah, how this all plays out for single target is more of a priority system than a rotation. We got the target dummy over here. Ignoring execute phase for the moment, we're going to always want to have our Rend applied to the targets. We don't have Thunderclap applying it by default anymore. You could pick that up if you really wanted to swap some things, but just casting Rend, and then we're going to be using our cooldowns before anything else for our priority. Avatar is going to be our first spell. My icon looks different here, but we're going to be using Avatar, Thunderous Roar, and Ravager all back-to-back, basically, into our Colossus Smash window, and then it's priority of Mortal Striking on cooldown and hitting our Skull Splitter. We really want Skull Splitter to line up within the cooldown window of Thunderous Roar, but since Thunderous Roar lasts 16 seconds and Skull Splitter is only 10, we've got a few free globals that we can, cast other things first, like getting out a first Mortal Strike before hitting it. Plus, the way the cooldowns line up, this being 21 seconds and Thunderous Roar being 45, you've got a little bit of wiggle room to get these both synced up throughout your rotation. And then after the cooldown phase, it's Mortal Strike on cooldown, followed by Overpowers to pad out the rotation. And any free globals you have left, you'll be filling up with Slam, provided you have the Rage for it. And it's just using Colossus Smash on cooldown, Avatar, Thunderous Roar on cooldown, Skull Splitter on cooldown, and it will naturally align with the Thunderous Roar, as well as Ravager on cooldown. And then during the execute phase, everything's the same, except you're going to be eliminating Slam from your rotation, spending Rage with Executes, and once you get 2 stacks of the Executioner's Precision buff, it will be casting Mortal Strike, And to pad out the rotation so your rage is smoother, anytime you're lower than 60 rage, we're going to be casting Overpower. And Skull Splitter is just going to be used on cooldown during execute phase for that free rage generation, the free global, and the extra damage it provides. Everything else will be on CD. It's just stacking up 2 Executioner's Precision buffs, usually 1 Overpower, followed by a Mortal Strike, rinse, repeat. One interesting synergy to point out is the fact that Unhinged casting free Mortal Strikes during the Ravager during execute phase means that you're more than likely going to be casting execute twice and Overpower, and the Ravager itself will auto-cast the Mortal Strike. So it's a little bit different of a cadence than we're used to, so you'll be casting, just 2 executes, Overpower, 2 executes, Overpower during that Ravager anyway for those 3 free Mortal Strikes. Anyway, this is not a quick guide. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So to demonstrate this on the pull here, ignoring the fact that I have the Legendary, if you're just coming back to the game, you would use that like before CDs usually. But we're going to go in and put up our Rens and then hit our cooldowns here, hit our Ravager into Colossus, into Mortal Strike, into our Skull Splitter, and then it's filling out our Overpowers, using up any sudden death procs that we get. I'm ignoring the fact that it's in execute phase right now, just going through our normal rotation. You can see down on the left here the things I'm pressing. And that's pretty much it. It's just rinse, repeat. And as our 20-second window comes back up here, we go ahead and use our Skull Splitter immediately on cooldown, and that's going to sync it back up with Thunderous Roar once it comes back around, using our Colossus Smash on cooldown, and just spending as much rage as we can to reset that. But it's not like Test of Might, like Overpower is getting priority over Slam. Once again, Slam is our priority filler. It's no longer Thunderclap. And then you can send that roar into the Skull Splitter there and rinse, repeat all that. And then if we look at our execute phase real quick here, we'd stack up the 2 Executioner's Precisions into the Mortal Strike, cycling our cooldown still. If we use our Ravager here, it's going to auto-cast, and you'll see it eat that buff. So if I stack it up twice there, I'm not pressing Mortal Strike, it's just auto-casting it off the Ravager. So it's a little bit different cadence during that window, but you're getting free rage from Ravagers, so it's pretty smooth. Anyway, if you have any questions about that, feel free to leave them down below. We're going to move on to the second talent setup here, which would be, you could play a few different things, but I'm going to show the Bladestorm build because Bladestorm has been massively buffed and it's just fun. And here is our example Bladestorm build that I would recommend for Mythic Plus at the moment. You could mix a few things, but this is what I'm sticking to at the moment. We've got utility in our spellbook. Once again, we can pick up Shockwave pretty easy, as well as the Rumbling Earth talent, both pretty valuable. As far as anything else on the warrior side, nothing else is really different from the single target. We're just grabbing the AOE talents here, still using Thunderous Roar with our build. And then on the arms side of the tree here, this is where things are quite a bit different. We're picking up Cleave now, as well as Fervor of Battle, because it's also proccing off of Cleave and not just Whirlwind now, and the Collateral Damage talent. Speaking of which, Cleave is now replacing Whirlwind, so this is your primary AoE spell now when you pick it up. We're going to be swapping out to Warbreaker and Dreadnought for a little bit extra passive damage, and then we're grabbing Bladestorm, still unhinged, and Merciless Bone Grinder for big burst damage windows. And then I'm grabbing Exhilarating Blows just for more AoE, just so we're just doing a ton of AoE. You could swap this out for Executioner's Precision if you wanted a little bit more priority damage, but this is what I'm going to say at the moment. And then if we're going into an AoE situation, the priority for it is getting our Thunderclap up on, or we're using Thunderclap to get Rend applied to all of our targets, and then using Cleave on cooldown, basically, and then into our cooldown window. Now, I do want to give a caveat. If you actually have the tier set at the moment, the opener would be slightly different. I would say you would fish with a Cleave off the bat for that crit, so you get this damage bonus off your tier set. Otherwise, you would just Thunderclap into cooldowns. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go in on these 5 targets here, and apply our Thunderclap. I'm going to Cleave, because I've got the tier set, into our cooldown window, so Avatar, Thunderous Roar, and then we're going to Warbreaker into our Bladestorm. And then outside of the Bladestorm, we're going to get this 9-second window of Merciless Bone Grinder. that's going to buff our cleave, so we're going to cleave immediately out of that, and then we can throw up our sweeping strikes to overpower during the sweeping strikes window and weaving in cleaves between these two. And if neither of these is available, we'll throw an Immortal Strike during the sweeping strikes window, just so it's maintaining as much of a buff on collateral damage as we can. And then any dead globals will be thunderclapping just as filler to keep rend applied to everything that we can. Yeah, so let's see. I'm forgetting something off the top of my head. I'm sure it'll come to me. So anyway, we're going to go in, put up our Thunderclap. We're going to use our Cleave, use our cooldown window, and then Bladestorm. And then Cleave out of that into Sweeping Strikes, and then it's weaving in Overpowers, Mortal Strikes during this Merciless Bone Grinder window, and just hitting as many cleaves as we can during this buff. And now that we've got the big collateral damage cleave on the end there, unfortunately it doesn't quite line up into our next CS window, but if you're going through enough prolonged AoE, eventually these things will sync back up to where you can hit a just ginormous cleave at the end of it. Oh, the thing that I was forgetting is you want to use your sweeping strikes outside of your Bladestorm most of the time, I would say, but it's not the end of the world if you do cast it, because we are playing Unhinged at the moment, and the 3 free Mortal Strikes cast during the Bladestorm will cleave if you have Sweeping Strikes up, so you get 6 free Mortal Strikes during that window, and if you have enough haste, the Bladestorm's fast enough that it's not that big of a deal. You're not losing a ton of uptime out of it, so I wouldn't get too bent out of shape for it. So, like I said, we're going to put that up, and if I hit my Bladestorm with it already rolling, I'll check details here, and you can see that we get 3 casts of Mortal Strike, but 6 hits, so it is cleaving on that. But anyway, yeah, that's about it for our AoE rotation. The single target priority would be the same in a dungeon, you know, with executes and rend and everything, just we don't have Skull Splitter for it. Cleave is just forced out of the rotation at that point for a boss. But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.